Dear Christian, what could be said about the teaching of Christ, which, if true, would make it false? If you can't answer that question, then your conclusions may be based on something other than honesty. You can't expect me to respectfully listen to you, if you are not open to full, honest inquiry, if you are unwilling to allow, theoretically, that you might be wrong. I'm open-minded, and willing to change my position, if warranted. Can you also be fair enough to follow the facts, wherever they lead? Nowhere in the Old Testament does it say that hell or Sheol was going to be a place of torture and punishment. However, Jesus believed that it was. The greatest defect in Jesus' teaching was his belief in hell or an everlasting punishment. How could someone who teaches others to be humane, believes in an inhumane punishment? Another defect in Jesus' teaching is the case of slavery. Although this practice was common in Jesus' own world, there is no evidence that he criticized it. As Morton Smith has noted, there were innumerable slaves of the emperor and of the Roman state. The Jerusalem temple owned slaves, the high priest owned slaves, one of them lost an ear in Jesus' arrest, all of the rich and almost all of the middle class owned slaves. So far as we are told, Jesus never attacked this practice. He took the state of affairs for granted and shaped his parables accordingly. As Jesus presents things, the main problem for the slaves is not to get free, but to win their master's praise. There seem to have been slave revolts in Palestine and Jordan in Jesus' youth, according to the historian Josephus. A miracle-working leader of such a revolt would have attracted a large following. If Jesus had denounced slavery or promised liberation, we should almost certainly have heard of his doing it. We hear nothing, so the most likely supposition is that he said nothing. Again, one would expect that the teaching of the Son of God would be one which supports the highest of morality and compassion, not cruelty and punishment. As Christ is often quoted saying, "By their fruits you shall know them," Matthew 7:16, what fruit has Christianity grown? One must conclude that this teaching of cruelty has grew fruits of cruelty that Christianity demonstrated in the Inquisition, the Crusades, the witch trials, slavery, the long historical persecution of non-believers, Muslims, Jews, pagan, animists, non-theist, etc., and as fundamentalists of all religions are doing today. There are belief systems such as Buddhism, Jainism, and Taoism, which emphasizes nonviolence, compassion, and humanity, and do not threaten eternal punishment. Furthermore, why haven't most Jews accepted Jesus as the Messiah? According to Jews for Judaism, in a pamphlet called The Real Messiah, they list 4 reasons why they reject Jesus as the Messiah. Reason 1, Jesus could not have been the Messiah. The prophets predicted a world of peace and love after the Messiah's coming, and this certainly does not exist today. Furthermore, any talk of the Messiah as being the Son of God is totally unacceptable. In no place do the prophets say that he will be anything more than a remarkable leader and teacher. Reason 2, although the Torah does speak of Adam's sin, it teaches that man can rise above it. Man might not be able to perfect himself, but it was for this reason that God gave us the Torah. It is absurd to think that God would give a Torah that was impossible or too difficult to follow. In no place does Judaism teach that one can be saved from damnation by mere belief. Any true belief in God must lead a person to also follow his commandments. Reason 3, it is impossible to imagine that God would ever reject the Jewish people. In many places, the Bible clearly states that his covenant with them will be forever. And reason 4, in many places, the Bible says that the Torah was given forever. It is therefore impossible to say that it has been replaced by a new law or testament. Love alone is not enough, for one must know how to express it, and for this, we need the Torah as a guide. Love is only one of the Torah's commandments, and good deeds are its necessary expression. Although, the 4 reasons just stated are for Jews and by Jews. Do the Jews have a point? They have been looking for the Messiah longer than Christians have been waiting for the rapture. Please continue to part 6.